You are now watching the Counterpress podcast, Conversations That Count, and you're here with Nkwazi Nomia and Talia Swatboy. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave us a little something in the comments.
Coming into episode 2, we know that there has been disruptions with the league. So we know that this will cause an effect on WAFCON and Banyana selection of players. How will the coach select players if the games are not playing week in, week out? Who does she pick, and how does she see that those people are actually performing in their teams if they are not playing? So we can't really blame the coach if she selects anyone that she knows and worked with before, because the challenge is right now she can't do anything about it. And also we got to see Ezemvelo, the debutants, and UCT play on the first week of the games, and these two teams really impressed me, because JVW played Ezemvelo. That game ended in 3-2 and it was a hectic match. They managed to clinch the point at the end. I think Ezemvelo is really gonna cause a lot of upsets in the league because they look strong, they're very motivated, and they want to prove the point that they deserve to be here as they won the national champs. Yeah. And also we look at UWC, their opening match against UJ. They really have a structured team, and they also a very young team, so they're very energetic. They can defend also because they can keep their structure. I watched their game. They could defend. They actually went on tour with UJ, and we know that UJ was dominating most of the games last season. So to see that, it was very impressive to see that it's going to be a very interesting season.
Yeah, no, certainly. I think with Ezemvelo, definitely, they played the national champs, and we as a football fraternity were able to see their capabilities within that Cecil level. However, I think coming into the season this year, and of course JVW having played them for the very first time, their new system, obviously they've acquired players to strengthen their team now that they're competing at the highest level. I think there was very little information or tactical tactical elements that JVW could have used, I guess, to better prepare for the game. But nonetheless, I think both teams came in, one maybe being a little bit more prepared than the other, but I think it did put on a good display of football. And as Ezemvelo said, we're ready to compete. Be it, whichever team that you bring towards us, we're ready to take the challenge. And I think, it was a very good game. When we look at UCT, I think they're not new to competition with UJ. They have met them, I'm sure, numerous times in your university competitions.
Because they're not
for
in the varsity cup. Right?
Yeah. So there as well, we did see some good football. I think as the league continues, I'm somewhat confident. Listen, they told me that University of Johannesburg is my favorite team. It's not. It's just my opinion, right? But in saying that, I think they started off not shaky. I definitely don't want to say that. Organized. They were very organized, but they just lacked a bit of, I think, a threatening presence in the final third. Yeah. That being University of Johannesburg, but nonetheless brilliant display of goalkeeping from the UCT goalkeeper. Yeah, she did very well. Robin, I'm not too sure on her last name, but she did very well. But nonetheless, yes, those first two fixtures of the HollywoodBets Super League kicked off, and I think to say it was a very prosperous look to the season. However, on the other hand, we saw a lot of fixtures on that Saturday being cancelled, as well as the Sunday games.
Yeah. So, as you were saying, those were cancelled because there's I think it's a partnership with SAFA and SABC and HollywoodBets. So they concluded, since there's been disruptions, they concluded that only the live games are going to be played. We don't have much information on that, but the games are still being played. All the ones that were meant to be live, they're still playing. So we don't know what's going to happen in future, but we're hoping that we do have a league.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think with the limited information, it obviously leads to assumptions, right?
Yeah.
And we say, what could it be? Could it be that it's mood negotiations, or, you know, the fraternity or the football federation and the title sponsor not seeing eye to eye? Is it that certain KPIs weren't reached? But at the end of the day, you know, that does put a little bit of a dampening towel spirit on the prosperity of the league. And I think with that, you know, not only does it affect the league as a whole or women's football as a whole, but rather, you know, it does affect the clubs, the club owners, and most importantly, the players. And as you have mentioned, you know, just thinking to that Banyana team, with all due respect, Coach Des had to go off of what she knows and what she's confident in, and players that she's confident in. And yeah, with that, it did present challenges, and we look at no grants being afforded to the teams or stipends as previous years, to allow the teams to travel to their necessary fixtures, or if we think of match day, you know, just hosting a fixture at a relevant facility. The requirement is that you play in a stadium, but now if you're not getting the necessary grant or the stipend that comes in monthly, it does present a challenge. You know, your match day, your medics, your doctors, and so forth, all of that support staff that you need to take the match ahead. And yeah, with that, you know, I think it is a very despairing feeling of hopelessness. However, you know, they say a woman makes something out of nothing, right? And
we're gonna come out of this, and I hope it's very soon, and we continue playing. So with that, I think we can open the conversation by just understanding the reoccurring of this statement: there is no money in women's football, and we need investments, we need this and that.
Yeah, no doubt. I think HollywoodBets, you know, kudos to them. They've been with the league since 2021. But I think, you know, before we jump into that, looking at part 2 of this episode, I think we just need to deconstruct the portfolio, I guess, of HollywoodBets and SAFA, certainly. And, you know, because the thing is, once you're a title sponsor, your name automatically gets attached to whether it be good or bad, right? So I think it's just also to educate you guys that aren't familiar with the sponsorship of the HollywoodBets Super League, its inception and so forth. And as we head into part 2, we will be covering that. So stay tuned, and we'll be right with you.
You won't regret this.